Hi, everyone. We're back at the compound with more builders. Okay, if you guys don't know, Nashville, there's builders everywhere. Okay, and I've actually run into an actual Viking. I didn't know Tiny Vikings had an actual Viking as a founder here. So I'm joined by Lars. Lars, how are you doing? What's going on?
No, doing all right, doing all right. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, beautiful. Y'all came all the way from Oslo?
Came all the way from Oslo, 22 hours of pain back of the bus.
Oh boy, oh boy. I will say already the Tiny Vikings brand in my mind, it's gone so much higher now that I know you're actually, from Oslo. Okay, you got the Viking look a little bit. You didn't have an axe, but you're pretty far. Why don't you give a little intro to yourself and then what you've been working on?
Yeah, sure. No, I'm Lars, building Tiny Vikings together with my team. We're about 9 people now. We've been, Tiny Vikings to us is like a fun experiment to see what new things we can build on Bitcoin. And, we tend to call them like digital toys. And that's sort of, a toy is something you own. It's something you can play with. It's something you can bring to different playgrounds. It's something you can share with friends. So that's something we've seen, the Tiny community like about them as well. They can play with them. They can bring them around into their memes.
Totally. I'm saying you got actual toys here too. Okay, one's disappeared because he's green, but yeah, we've got actual Tiny Vikings here. So
and they are actually very tiny.
Yeah, that's about as yeah.
This is actually just a 3D model. So if you haven't seen Tiny Vikings, they're like a multi-dimensional ordinal collection. 20,000 Tiny Vikings living on chain. Everything is on chain, and they're 2D and 3D.
Beautiful.
So this guy I just threw into the printer, and it came out this big.
Nice.
So,
are you a 3D printer guy?
Yeah, I like tinkering with stuff and like just building stuff. So it was a fun experiment. And now I just, wherever we go, we need to print like, a lots of these to bring them to holders. So
Totally. Yeah, well, giving out little toys and trinkets like that are great because people end up, putting it on their desk and then playing with it. And it just gets like deeper into your little world if you play with it every day. So
sure thing.
So maybe to start off too, so since you've been around for a little bit in the crypto space, why don't you tell us how'd you first get into this world?
Like early days of Bitcoin was, buying obscene things online.
Okay, there you go. That's the only way. I don't trust you unless you bought something on Silk Road. Okay, that's what I say.
I might have not, but
okay, yeah. Officially, I've never been on that website.
Don't know even what it is.
Yeah.
No, so started playing with Bitcoin as an interesting means of transferring money basically online. Before we had Bitcoin, we actually had to send cash outside of the country to get fake IDs and stuff. So now we could do it a bit easier.
Totally.
But, Bitcoin was kind of that means of, storage of value, transfer of value. But then I got interested in ETH when the yellow paper launched in the sense of, seeing this sort of world computer where everyone could like build towards this world computer, have a shared state that no one could tamper with.
Totally.
Of course, like mining was fun. I'm a tinker, I'm a builder. Building like Frankenstein rigs with GPUs was fun, of course. And, it was interesting to accumulate ETH and also trying building stuff on ETH. Got interested in Solana, ICP, just tested out all the different ones basically, layer 2s, etc. But the one thing that really sort of held us back from we saw the cycle of the 2013 to 2017 the ICO boom, and it was like at that time me and my team were building in the Web 2 world developer tools. Graphic stacks, video stacks, licensed out to builders, handset manufacturers, and, trying to build a real business in what we sort of thought was a real business back then. And then seeing, people with a white paper raising like $20 million in an ICO and rigging everyone.
A white paper with misspelled words in it and an idea that's been done 30 times. But yeah, it was great.
Exactly. So that was kind of, we kind of like, okay, this is actually just pure rugs.
Yeah.
And, you had like 100 different ETH forks and everyone's like, wasting their GPU power on that. But we saw something interesting though. And like, CryptoKitties launched and, we have been working with, I said like, game engines, game development, media distribution, composition of different kind of media assets. And what we really saw that was kind of a big opportunity in our mind was now we have like a programmatic licensing layer. So we kind of, with sort of this sort of notion of Web3 and digital currencies, we also had like money built into software, but we also had this like, public ledger of who actually owns what.
Totally.
So that was like really, piqued my interest in the sense of like, okay, now we actually have digital private property and it's like, fully trustless.
Yeah.
So, when COVID hit, it was kind of hard for us to continue like running our sort of sales operations and going out, meeting customers, sitting down with their developer teams and actually showing them that, hey, this software that some weirdos in Norway is building should actually run on all our handsets.
Yeah.
So we, started looking into sort of crypto again and seeing like, okay, can we actually use that sort of expertise and the experience we have from sort of our previous lives in Web 2 and like actually bring in some of this and sort of utilize these new sort of core primitives of digital private property. And, Ordinals came around like, 18 months ago?
Yeah, something like that.
And that, all the time when we sort of built stuff on Solana, ETH, all these other chains, it was like really frustrating to see that the content is not on chain.
Yeah.
So it was always building another database and like kind of, defeated the purpose in our mind. And then, now we can inscribe arbitrary data on Ordinals or on Bitcoin. It will be there forever.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what sort of, spoke to us. And that's why we sort of went, all in on Ordinals and really, let's build something cool. Let's just put it out there, see if people like it, and continue from there.
Yeah, how long did it take you when you first saw, like, Casey put out the Ordinals handbook before you were like, guys, let's build something. Let's build a,
took a bit of, like, maybe, like, I'd say, like, maybe even, like, a full, like, 9 months or something. In the early days of, like, really, trying to figure out what Ordinals was, I was like, okay, what's actually valuable enough to start bloating the main chain?
Yeah.
And that was kind of before I really looked into it and understood how the whole thing worked. Because, we can, the way I see it is like we have 100 million sats per Bitcoin. That's like addressable memory space in the computer.
Yep.
So at the time I was like, okay, if something should be inscribed here, it should be information that if changed will dramatically change the outcome of the world in the future for a lot of people that weren't really, in on making those decisions.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it was like, what do we need to inscribe? Like someone really needs to inscribe WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
And then someone did that, and I was like, oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Let me look into this again. And then, understanding more of it. And, I guess the key sort of tipping point for me was like when we understanding that we can have indexes on each set.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically have unlimited addressable memory space.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've been building sort of core tech behind Tiny Vikings for many years. But Tiny Vikings in its own, I think we've been building for about 18 months.
Nice. So what did that research look like for you? When did it go from like, oh, this is cool, to being like, maybe I could build something on this? Okay, let me see what's it like to inscribe my own ordinals, things like that.
I think the process in general is like just, okay, one, like what's the core primitives of this? Like, recursion is a big thing.
Yep.
And we wanted to make things tiny, and if you go look at the Tiny Vikings, they're actually very tiny on chain as well. So there's 20,000 Tiny Vikings. Each of them are less than 150 bytes on chain.
Yeah.
So it's, it's kind of a technical challenge as well. And, our sort of pedigree of making, real-time graphics, game developer tools, app developer tools is all about, the limitation of GPU and memory.
Totally.
And on Bitcoin, you kind of have the same problem, but not necessarily on the rendering side, but on like what do you actually inscribe and how do you make these things small, and again, how do you use recursion to make dynamic things? How do you make sort of an architecture on chain that can sort of deal with it without sort of, making us bleed to death and actually paying for getting it on chain?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's interesting because that's one of the problems that people that come over to Ordinals, they go, wait a minute, I want to put my stuff and it's huge images or a huge this, and this is either the most expensive thing ever or it won't even fit, and I got to split stuff up. Where it sounds like you guys went the opposite approach. You guys were saying like, you're trying to show off how small you can get stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, and it was, of course, on one side we want the Tiny Vikings to be composable. We want them to be able to evolve over time. So it was kind of natural to build it this way. And the hardest thing I think about Ordinals is like the sort of developer experience, like actually getting things like on chain. It's fucking nerve-wracking, man.
100%. Yes. Yeah, there's nothing worse than, well, first of all, spending a lot of money for a deploy.
Yeah.
You're saying you were deving in the Web 2 world before. It didn't cost $5,000 to do a deployment and then say, oh, no, there's a mistake. It's permanent and I need to, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so how do you deal with that? That actually is an interesting thing from like a dev perspective. Like, how do you get that confidence when you're saying, okay, I'm about to spend a lot of money. I hope this is right. Like, how, is it just personal testing? Or are you just on the test nets all the time trying to make sure that it looks right? Or
so we actually didn't do a lot of stuff on testnet and signet, mainly because it's so fucking cumbersome to get around it. Like get like testnet tokens is like
100%. They cost money now. They cost actual money.
Yeah. Signet is also, there's not, at that time, there wasn't a lot of Signet support on wallets out there. So, we, for the main part, we did like a lot of reg testing. Just like local reg test and like just all the different browsers, like tried to like just see how we could break it. But now it's nerve-wracking, man. We had like 33 or 37 batches of inscriptions to get all the 20,000 out. And,
yeah. So yeah, well, how good did it feel after that first one was done?
I think it was like this was like, it felt good, but it was like fucking scary the whole time, to be honest. And in the beginning we were running like our nodes in our office and in our parents' house and like just getting it up and running, and then
yeah, Mom, don't shut that computer off. You don't understand. I have to resync. You've lost a day of work.
Exactly. And then when it crashes, you need to do the whole re-indexing and repair the index again. And that takes like, at that time, it took like 9 hours. I think today it takes about a day.
Yeah.
If that happens. So,
and that's the ordinal MFer's fault too. Okay. That's why it's taking so long. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you have Windows Update, even though it's been like completely shut up and like put to jail, it suddenly decides to snipe your node while you're doing it. So, no, at some point I was actually sleeping right next to the node.
Yeah.
While I was recovering to see, like, is it ready now? Is it ready now? Is it ready now?
Yeah.
Then I woke up and then Windows had shut it off.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. Yeah. So I was gonna say, since you come from like the Web 2 development background too, like this is so much more painful. A lot of the stuff we're describing, right? There's a few times you have to wait for. I mean, there's some people have a 9-hour test suite maybe to do a deployment if you work somewhere real fancy with a lot of money or something like that. But like there's a lot of limitations. How do you yourself as like a developer like deal with that, or know that like I'm making the right decision to live in this world? Or you ever miss ETH?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like, on one side it's like you have a lot of freedom developing in ordinals.
Yeah.
Sort of compared to Solana, Ethereum, we have smart contracts. It's like really hard and strictly governed what you can actually do and how it needs to look before you get it on chain. But on ordinals you can basically do whatever. Like you can scribe any data, and I think at the end it comes down to like, does it render on ordinals.com?
Yeah. Totally.
I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. And ordinals.com is not the fastest website out there, so you get some leeway too. Other sites I'm like, it didn't load, I'm leaving. There I'm like, just wait. Yeah. Okay, we're on Bitcoin, so give it a minute. Nice. Yeah. So kind of curious. So you got all 37 batches done, right? They're out. Like, what was like the biggest like challenge to like? How'd you know to do 37 batches in the first place? How'd you plan that? That was actual division.
Again, just like the number that ended up being like the smallest amount of batches that we could send to get all the 20,000 out. So we inscribed them and distributed them in the same transaction.
Oh, okay, nice.
Again, to make the sort of footprint of how much we actually had to put in to get them distributed. And
totally. How'd you find yourself like building the actual community first? Like I was saying, I remember when Tiny Vikings launched, it was every group chat I'm in that were like cross community. It wasn't an Ordinals group chat. It's like an alpha chat or this chat or that chat. And I was like, damn, Tiny Vikings are just being discussed in every single one of my chats. Yeah. So like you really like right away, it seems like hit the ground running and spread. I mean, how'd you get that to happen?
I think a big part of it's like, we were, Tiny Vikings is our sort of playground. It's our sort of showroom and experimental sort of place where we can try new things and like see how we sort of can build new fun experiences. And for us, it was like, should we sell them? Should we airdrop them? How should we do this? And it's like, it was never the plan for us to make money on these. Mm-hmm. So I think like a few weeks before we really, started inscribing, I was like, let's fucking airdrop it.
Yeah.
And let's just send it out. And I think that was part of the reason why I think it was kind of well timed, end of March was a good time to do this.
Yeah.
And we've been around meeting builders, degens in this space for the last years around the world on conferences, and we sort of ramped that up the last couple of months before we inscribed, and basically just started telling people like, hey, we're gonna do something crazy soon. Yeah, you better like keep an eye on what's going to happen with Tiny, and like we actually was running like a whitelist thing in our Discord. So everyone was like finding get a whitelist to actually buy something, and then we just airdropped it.
Yeah.
I think. That was kind of a...
Well, that makes DGen so happy.
Yeah.
That they want to talk, and they also want to brag to every friend, like, I got airdropped, you did. Yeah, and then boom.
Exactly.
Yeah, good network effect.
But it's amazing, man, to see the community come together and staying Tiny and have fun with them, We have, hundreds, maybe thousands of memes made of the Tinies. And
totally. How did you find were you guys like planning those memes ahead of time? I mean, you guys, because like the Stay Tiny, you were saying that from the beginning, right? So you already were implanting the people with some of like, here's the mission, or here's like something to rally around. But then obviously the community took it further, and they're the ones sitting in Photoshop all day making memes and stuff like that. Like, did it just happen naturally, or were you guys like helping plant those memes, or like?
So what we did though is like trying to build the Tiny Vikings inscriptions in a way that made it easy to actually play with them. And a lot of the play, online today and on Twitter is all about, making memes,
Yep.
I think, memes rule the world. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
So what we did was like we made it very easy to get the meme head out, like just the head of the Tiny Vikings. So if you go even from the first version of the inscription, you could get the head out.
Yeah.
Without having to like crop it in Photoshop, without having to mask it.
That's a huge, yeah.
And then you could just bring it into any, GIF maker tool or any kind of meme maker tool. So we actually had like the first day we actually listed on Magic Eden, we had the roller roll in. And he just immediately became, crowned as the meme lord, the tiny meme lord. So it's, it's been super fun to see the community, learning together how to build memes, how to advance on the meme game. I just had a holder meet me downstairs here, and he was like, how are these people doing this augmented reality stuff? And I'm like, it's, you just click the thing and you download the thing and you bring it in where you want it.
Totally. It is funny. People are learning so many tools right now from making memes. It's like I know people who are getting like good graphic design skills. They're learning about AI. They're learning. It's like, why? I'm like, I'm making jokes. And I'm like, that's a much better reason than like boring, like I'm watching a Photoshop class or a,
Exactly.
Yeah, and plus you get instant recognition. One of the best, I always like laugh with meme makers. If you make a meme and you put it on the internet, you're getting instantly like some recognition or like you're knowing what works and what doesn't work. You're getting, it's like a stand-up comic versus other stuff where it's like, I spend months building this thing. What do you guys think? It's like, nah, I'll put out 20 memes a day. Ooh, people are liking this. Oh,
No, totally.
So I was gonna say, where do you like focus your community in terms of where they're talking and whatnot? Because right now it's I mean, there's people who are all Telegram. There's Twitter groups, there's Discord, some people are just it's Twitter Spaces every day. Like, how do you find yourself like corralling this, moving group of people?
So, our sort of main community is on Discord. We do have like a tiny army group chat on Twitter as well. We're the most diehard tiny fam.
The tiniest,
The tiniest. They roost around in there, but, we could probably do more. I think the main thing is like try and find a place where at least the most sort of active community members can meet and like hang out and like have fun together, and that's basically our Discord.
Nice.
And we do try to do fun things in there. We have like a meme channel in there which just like cycles all the memes that everyone produces in the community. And
nice. So you guys jumped on the rune train, right? Which truthfully, I mean, Vikings and runes, it's like it goes together. And you guys, Tiny Vikings came out before runes was ever announced, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So you got, I mean, come on, you talked to Casey or something. How did that work out? Because seriously, it's like runes and Vikings. It's like you got either really lucky or Casey. Okay, you gotta tell me.
No, I think definitely we got lucky on that. I think the luck was started like some years before because Casey actually studied in Sweden.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
In university.
Yeah.
And he's also a former demo scener. Which is like, creative computer scene
totally,
where you make, rad shit, and that's kind of the
world
that
you're
we grew up in
exactly,
as well. So it's kind of funny seeing him in the Viking outfits, and we're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah,
like, we have Tiny Vikings lined up, and like, he's now doing this. He's like in the Viking costume, and now he's fucking doing runes, and so people in the community is like, obviously the Tiny Vikings are the real guardians of the runes.
No, exactly. Yeah. I was seeing everyone saying that because I'm seeing conspiracy theories. You know what I mean? Because it's like, Casey's got the Viking horns on, and then you're like, it just works so good. So, okay, so just kismet. It just worked out, right?
Yeah, it just worked out, and, I mean, a lot of the team are from Norway, so we're, we're kind of actual Vikings. But
totally, yeah. So how did that work out when Casey first is like, okay, runes are coming, he made an announcement. Were you guys just like, let's start building, thank you, Odin, let's get down to work?
No, I think it's, the interesting thing about runes for us is like, we want to try and build out, ways to make better experiences on Bitcoin, and that is sort of expressed through Tiny Vikings. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and we have announced we actually announced in Lisbon at a non-fungible conference that we will open source a lot of these tools that we're building.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, that's kind of even though it might look like there's not a lot of activity going on, there's a lot of activity going on behind the scenes, and that's kind of our motto. We build, we don't buy, we show, we don't tell. And we try to elevate and like support the community as much as we can when they do something tiny.
Totally. Can you share any of those tools that you're going to open source soon?
So far we actually have an initiative now that we're inviting a lot of builders on. One problem that we have seen and also experienced when building Tiny Vikings is that if you compare it to like Solana and Ethereum, where we have smart contracts, the metadata. So this is kind of funny. On ETH and Solana, we have all the metadata on chain, but we have none of the content on chain. And then on Bitcoin, we have all the content on chain, but none of the metadata.
Yes.
And it's kind of, this is again like, this is how you get these like black magic experiments going, because you basically have a free canvas. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you go outside of the standard or the smart contracts on ETH or Solana, you're not going to get listed.
Yeah, totally.
So it's a very sort of different world there. But now I think, the interesting thing for us is like try and figure out how can we use runes now to sort of bring in sort of the financialization of these new experiences of composing with on-chain assets. Mm-hmm. And that's actually something that, we took notice of in the documentation of Ordinals as well from Casey. Is like, part of his reasoning for doing this is actually to be able to remix content, like remix on-chain content.
Totally.
And that's kind of, the world that we come from, where, growing up on the early day internet, you could just, we sold everything. We still
100%.
do that.
We still, yeah.
Back to your point about learning new tools to make the things you want. Again, I don't care if I need a licensing or like a key for this, whoever.
You don't first of all go to the GitHub, go to the license. Oh, dang, it's MIT, can't use it. I need GPL too,
So no, one of the big things that will come up very soon now is like actually something that's part of Tiny Vikings already. So it's an initiative that we hope that we can bring in a lot of the key builders on now to actually try and help kind of mitigate the problem of none of the metadata really being used in a sort of structured way.
Totally.
We did that, of course, with Tiny Vikings because we read the documentation. We come from a background where we know that unless you have tagged your content correctly, it will be very, very hard to use it. Totally. And that's kind of the risk that I see now is like, unless someone fixes this, we will go into the same situation as on Web 2, where some private indexer is indexing all the content and then selling back access to that content on the other side. And when it's in a private indexer, who knows if it's real or not?
Yeah, totally. And I remember when I first was hopping into Ordinals, I was like, okay, cool. So I'm just going to adapt all my scripts I use for Ethereum to download all the metadata, start looking for what are the rare items. I can't do. I was literally like, no, I thought I had a plan. And so it's definitely a problem for like every collection. Yeah. So have you been talking to other teams about this?
Yeah. So we've been sort of, again, this came out of necessity. We have built like, a lot of different things. Like, for instance, the Tiny Vikings didn't index correctly and weren't displayed correctly on all the different marketplaces, indexers. But again, it all comes down to like, unless there's an easy way to figure out what's going on inside the ordinal, it's kind of hard to actually display it correctly. And this is something that we've seen with a lot of the other collections. Like Game of Blocks was kind of sad to see like indexing be that poor, because like people were actually buying dead assets on the marketplaces that hadn't been updated yet. So we're talking to builders of other collections, marketplaces, indexers, wallets, launch pads. Launch pads is of course an important sort of set of builders to bring in, because they're basically in control of a lot of the content that goes on chain.
Totally.
So we're gonna actually launch a few of these things over the next couple of weeks, including some use cases, including the Tiny Vikings, both that our partners are building and that we're building ourselves.
Nice. So it sounds like you want developers kind of to join the community too, to like get that's good. Okay. Yep. Nice. What would you categorize like the different groups of Tiny Viking holders? It's like there's the meme makers that are out there having fun. Yeah. There's like this like developer crew who's like, look, they're making stuff tiny and they're making tools. Are those the two major ones? You just like, is there a third or anything?
Yeah, I think we saw like, in the early days, after we launched, we saw like a huge inflow of like Solana people, Ethereum people.
Yeah, I noticed that from my endpoint. Yeah. I was like, a lot of Solana ETH friends were like, Tiny Vikings was the first ordinal that they were all in on.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of like, shared learning experiences with the community, and, fair share of people getting rugged, coming in from ETH, Solana, and then someone posts a scam link, and then they're like, I had like good friends, like OGs from the art scene and these other chains, like come in and like, 5 minutes after they come into the Discord, they get drained. And they send me a message like, Lars, why the fuck are you draining me? I'm like, what the hell, did you click the link?
Yeah.
Just don't click the links.
Yeah.
But no, so we have a lot of builders, we have a lot of meme makers, but a lot of collectors as well.
Yeah. Nice. I was gonna say that is an interesting fact, because I know a lot of people who came from ETH, and the scams are different. Yeah. Right. It's a different style, and people are like, I know all the lessons. It's like, no, the Bitcoin works fundamentally different than Ethereum. So they got like, you can get scammed in different ways. Yeah. How do you like educate the community on that, or is it kind of like, guys, we're developers, figure it out?
Yeah, though, one thing was, of course, like, activate a lot of the active community members that really are diehard Tiny to, be moderators, elevate them so that, we have more people to actually snipe out these scammers.
Totally.
But also like building our own bots. We summoned the Tiny bot that's really strict now. So like any imposters will be banned immediately. Also employed Tiny bot to, he's an AI model. So he basically, you can talk to Tiny bot inside the Discord.
Nice.
So it's fun to see when, new people come in and like, hey, tell me about Tiny Vikings, anyone. Yeah. And then someone in the community is like, hey, Tiny bot, tell this guy about Tiny.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The key is you could, let's see if you could remove the bot name from it and see if people still think it's a real person. They might, you know what I mean? I got vegan bot in my name. So sometimes people think I'm a bot and I'm like, no, I'm typing. Can't you see I'm misspelling and saying wrong things? So you brought something interesting up about the marketplace because that we're seeing, ordinals have just been such an explosion over the last, 18 months, however long it's been. And a lot of different marketplaces, some already existing marketplaces are trying, adopt and add things, like Magic Eden. Others were popping up just for ordinals. How do you spend your time knowing that, oh God, there's a new marketplace. I got to see, what are they doing over there? Oh God, is everything rendering and looking good over there? How do they show stuff? Oh, Magic Eden lets us display an off-chain image and an on-chain image. Should we go and add a new on?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that the first couple of weeks, to be honest. And, kudos to the Magic Eden team and the OKX team. Like, they want to make things good, but, there's tons of stuff going on their end as well. And
you're not the only project on that. They got a lot.
And they have other things to build as well, So in the end, we actually ended up building out a lot of the tools and the tech to make sure it's displayed correctly. So we ended up like building out the Tiny Vikings website quite a lot to make sure that you can experience them correctly and see them. And but these days not that much, to be honest.
Yeah,
like
you did it right. It's working.
It is what it is, and it's still not like 100%. But so that's again something that we hope and think that the initiative that we're launching now in terms of trying to deploy some open source code that can help with this sort of indexing issue and sort of structuring of the data.
Totally.
So we figured, okay, we actually shared the solution how to do this with a lot of the marketplaces. Like, okay, this is how you configure your CDN to actually, understand what's going on inside the ordinal, so that your CDN actually does the recache or the refetch based on what's happening in the ordinal. Not like it has passed 2 weeks.
Totally. Yeah. I was going to remember, there's only two hard things in computer science, right? Naming things and cache invalidation. So I was curious because, runes were just, another, BRC 20 first, and then runes were both another big major moments in the communities, right? BRC 20 was before Tiny Vikings were launched. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So then runes were after. How did you see the community change after runes came out? Did you end up like with a runes degen channel and people are trading there?
No, I think, we've been so we etched the tiny runestone at block 840,000.
There you go.
Block.
Yeah, nice.
I want
to ask you how'd you get that done?
No,
you were competing,
yeah. No, I actually met the decentralized guys.
Chip?
2 the other day.
Yeah.
He told me they sent it like really fucking hard to get the rune number 2.
Oh yeah, they spent a lot of money and a lot of calculations to get 2. Yeah, and they still didn't get 1. You also didn't know it could have been 10.
Yeah,
and they could have spent the same amount of money. Like, oh.
Yeah. And for us, it's like it was important to sort of get the provenance and also show the community that, hey, we know our shit and we do this, on our own. And
totally.
If there's something we need to sort of do the thing we want, either more efficient or more tiny, we build our own sort of versions of Ord.
Totally.
But yeah, we've been sort of allocating the tiny runestone since block 835,000 to the tiny holders, and now at block 853,888, we airdropped the first 30% of the supply allocated to the Tiny Viking holders.
Nice.
So yeah, let's see what happens now with now they have their runes, or in the next couple of hours, the next 100 blocks or so, it will all be out, and then our sort of next stage with Tiny is utilizing the Tinies, make them go other places, new experiences, but also bring the runes into this.
Nice.
To sort of financialize those experiences. So.
Totally. So what was it like that havoc night? You guys were all hands on deck. You're sleepless. Yeah. How was that?
So I was actually in Dubai then for Token 2049.
Yeah.
And that was like the floods and it was horrible. So it was just
God trying to kill another crypto conference or
exactly.
Or but yeah.
No, so it's just I was in the hotel room just linked up with the team back in Oslo, and we're just sitting there and testing.
Yeah.
And then at block, was it like 839,995?
Yeah.
We just sent it and crossed our fingers and set the fee rate. Like, I think we just set the fee rate at like 10,000 sats per V-byte.
Okay.
So it's fairly low, like $1,200 or something.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Some people spend a lot more than that. Well, it was such a game of chicken. Like, I know everyone's saying, like, how much are you doing? Don't worry. I don't know, 100 sats per V-byte. How much are you doing? 99. I don't know. It was definitely a game of, like, poker that was pretty intense, But, you got it. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, we were super happy, to hear that mempool chime.
Oh, my God. I would have loved to have just seen that room because, oh, my God, like, I know how much people spend millions of dollars, trying to get on that block. And the fact that you're able to get on there for, thousands is like a pretty big difference. So.
Yeah, no, we were super happy about that. And, round numbers are nice. The halving block is cool, of course.
Totally. No, round numbers, the halving block is the real deal. I don't care about a round number. I care about a hat, which is going to be round, but you know what I mean? So, Nice. So you were in Dubai for this. You're traveling a bit to go to conferences, whatnot. You're meeting people. So, like, for Tiny Vikings and the crew, like, what's your goal? When you're going out here, who are you trying to meet? You trying to meet devs? You're trying to meet community members? You're trying to meet other projects?
All of them, basically. But we definitely want to make fun experiences for our holders. So we usually have like a tiny brunch. Or something bigger.
So it's like you get like one piece of toast, and you're like, "Hey guys,
super tiny pieces of toast,
a little coffee, and
small cup of water."
Yeah.
No, it's we host our tiny family and mainly builders and other projects, and trying to sort of align sort of, okay, this problem we have identified, is this real? Like, do you guys also see this? And that's of course important to actually meet people in person and like face to face, and like you need to build some kind of relationship and trust before.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. In person really changes the dynamic of relationship. Yeah. People trust you so much more.
And it's so fun to go to these events, I tend to say, like, going to these crypto conferences is by far the biggest or highest concentration of anarchists.
Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%. Yes. I told you, the number of people here that I'm always talking about, like, weird, wild stuff, or what's your story you got into crypto, and it's, like, always fun and wild. Like, it's not a bunch of people like, I don't know, I read about it on CoinDesk, and I decided, it's always like, was deep on the web. Then I found Silk Road. No, it's always Silk Road. It goes back there.
Figured out my bank is scamming me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I was going off grid, and then I just needed a way to, cross the border. Yeah.
I think, to be honest, like, the whole COVID situation and lockdowns really accelerated that.
100%. Oh, yeah. It definitely made everyone go, oh, wow, you're not letting me leave my house? Oh, wait, you can shut my bank account if I don't agree with stuff? Okay, I need to get this money somewhere else. So, yeah, nice. So for the phase 2, what can you reveal? What can you give us, okay? Can you tell us, like, give us any secrets of what's going to happen next, some alpha?
Yeah, I think, the first thing I'll say is, like, 30% of the tiny runestone has been allocated now. It's being airdropped as we speak now. Mm-hmm. And in stage 1, you basically accumulated tiny runestones by holding Tiny Vikings, giving them a good home, a safe home, not listing them. That will continue in stage 2. So after the airdrop is completed now, they will immediately go back to etching, which basically means them allocating tiny runestones for your holder, for the holders. But there will be another sort of side of stage 2 as well, which will be all about playing with our tinies.
Okay.
Bringing them out from our wallets, having fun with them, getting them out into the world, and basically starting to raid.
Okay, nice. Okay, now I was gonna say with Vikings and raiding, another thing that you guys just got the words all lined up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, wizards don't raid. Okay, Vikings raid. All right, exactly. So all right, beautiful. Lars, thank you so much for talking. Is there anything you want to tell the audience, like, if you want to get more involved in Tiny Vikings, where's the best place for info? Where can we find you at this conference for the next week? What's going on?
Yeah, no, so we'll be here in Nashville all week. We have a holder meetup on Saturday.
Nice.
In our tiny house that we rented. We also have a...
Is it an actual tiny house?
It's a tiny house. It's a tiny house.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. Awesome. I love it.
It will have space for our family, though.
Okay, nice.
And then Saturday evening, we have a tiny game night.
Oh, awesome.
Here on the compound together with you guys. And then...
Yeah, awesome.
That'll be very fun.
Awesome. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Then, the best place to find Tiny is Tiny Vikings XYZ. And, this is very simple. You either stay tiny and go to Valhalla with Tiny Fam, or you don't stay tiny and you're not going to make it. Yeah,
totally. Okay, wait, but before we wrap, I just want to say one last thing. How deep is the community learning now Norse mythology? Is it happening? Are they starting to slowly?
It is definitely happening. Like, we actually had like one of our fucking great family members, Amado. He's actually co-hosting our tiny brunch on Saturday.
Oh, nice.
Because he's president of Bluntdow.
Okay, nice. That's a good person. That's a good person to host a brunch. Okay, yeah. Blunts and brunch, you know.
He hosted our tiny meetup in Consensus in Austin
Nice.
when both me and Elgin couldn't go. So he actually staked out the best like beer bar to get like as close you could to like Viking mead.
Oh, really? Oh, sick! Awesome,
So, like,
awesome.
Yeah, the Norse mythology, like people like it, you know, and like the Vikings TV show, everyone's seen that over the last couple of years, and no, it's cool. And you know, we tend to like want to bring that raiding and exploration spirit into our project as well.
Beautiful, totally. Thank you so much, Lars. That was a lot of fun. Likewise. I'm excited. If you're in Austin, or sorry, in Nashville, geez, find Lars, find this tiny house, go to the brunch. Thank you. We'll see you guys soon for more.
Stay tiny.
Yeah, stay tiny. There's one here too. You just can't see him. He's invisible. Okay, but look, you can see him over my shoulder.